Guys, today I'm going to be showing you guys the best Berserker setup, and I'm going to be showing you what's the best for each floor and what kata level you should be or Berserk level you should be for your class. So yeah, let's get started. So if we go over here, we can see some gear. So first thing that you have to do for Berserker, it's actually not in the auction house. And firstly, I think this can go for every single class and just in dungeons in general. Get fairy souls. Fairy souls are so important for dungeons. Like, you don't understand how much they help. Like, you get tankier, you get more intelligence, you get more damage. They're just great for dungeons. Um, Not only Berserker but other classes. So definitely get all fairy souls. It's okay if you're missing like only a couple of the ones in dungeons and if like the Jerry event ones, but try to get all of them. Second thing that is not including this, you need to have money to do dungeons. Maybe you can't have like 50 mil, but at least have around 10 mil or like 5 mil. Like at least 5 mil, I would say. Or else you can't really do dungeons. It just, you can't do them, really. As you can see, I have full Necron and I got all of this by dungeons. I dropped a chest plate, a Shadow Assassin chest plate, some other stuff. And the other thing is, you might have the best gear, you might have the best, like you might have all the fairy souls, but your kata level is so important. I'm currently trying to level mine up. I'm only 23, but I'm trying to get to 24 soon, and 25 and 26. But as you can see, each level increases you by 4% for the first couple ones, then 5, and then as you get higher, you get 6, 7, and right now it's 8, and then 9, and then 10. So that really helps out. And then this is specifically for Berserker, but combat and foraging levels. If I can find my foraging level, don't roast me in the comments. I don't really like skills, but I should definitely be working on it. I am gonna predict that there's gonna be a foraging mayor, and there's gonna be a foraging update soon. So I'm gonna wait to grind that out in combat. I like to wait for the special mayors. Um, Definitely I would take advantage of dungeons when Paul's out. Aatrox, I like to grind combat, but yeah. So now let's get started for the gear. So for like for a beginning player, I would go for adaptive. Adaptive is pretty cheap, if I can spell it right. It's pretty cheap. As you can see, the boots are like 200k, 250k. The leggings are like 850k. It should be around 4 mil. The most expensive part is the chest plate, and if you don't think you can afford that, like I think that's a little too pricey for a lot of players. So instead of that, I would go for like something like Zombie Soldier, which is pretty cheap as well. Um, Honestly, if you can't afford adaptive, which I don't know what are you doing, but Zombie Soldier is definitely the way to go. I would actually go with the legendary variant. It's a little more expensive, but it's definitely worth it. As you can see, this is 200k compared to the other chest plate, and both of these sets are amazing sets. Not only for Berserker, but I would definitely run them for some other classes as well. But those are the two main helmets that I would, or two main sets that I would use for early game. Now for some early game swords, I would go for the Zombie Soldier Cutlass. Very good sword. I would go for like the epic variant. As you can see, they're pretty cheap, and like this one right here, 200k, I would get something like that. If you want to go for more enchants, like you can see, like somewhere, like that one has like more enchants, but like here, like I wouldn't pay like this amount of money. You know what I would do? I would grab something like this one, and I would buy that one, and then I would get like a maxed book from here, and I would max it out because that's cheaper. But that's the sword I would use. I would use that one because it's basically a cheaper version of a livid dagger. As you can see, I'm gonna be covering the livid dagger, but the livid dagger gives 100% crit chance and 100% bonus attack speed. And then the cutlass actually gives 100% uh, bonus attack speed. So that's really, really good for like DPS, and it's actually pretty good for damage as well. So I would definitely recommend the Zombie Soldier Cutlass. Also, you can go for something like the Adaptive Blade. I can also spell adaptive, right? If you can see right here, these are a little bit expensive, I guess, for some players, but I'd get something like this. Pretty good damage. I would put Fabled on it though. And some of these have like a dungeons requirement, like a floor. So if you can't do that floor, just get carried. Carries are amazing. They're like the early floors are really cheap, so if you get scammed, which if you ever need a carry, just put your IGN in the comments and message me. I'll give you a free carry if it's not like a really high floor, but like something like this would be great. An adaptive blade like this, Fabled. As you can see, the stats are 500 damage, and like 200 strength and like 200 crit damage. And if you choose Berserker, you get 5 strength and 5 speed. And you with the Fabled bonus, you could also put Withered on it. I wouldn't do it though. Like this one as well is really nice. I would actually get that over that one. But those swords are really, really good for early game. Those are the two ones that I would recommend. So now going on for pets, I want to first start off with the Wither Skeleton pet. This one for the epic one. It's okay. I'm not sure if it's like I would get a pretty high level epic one, but if you can afford it, I don't even know how people. A legendary one. These are a little bit more expensive, but trust me, these pets are amazing. I have one myself, a level 94. I've had it for like the beginning of dungeons. This thing is amazing for dungeons. As you can see, it gives all around stats, defense, crit chance, crit damage. And if you choose something like the adaptive blade and you want some attack speed, use like the crochet tiger plushie. And I would actually buy it right now because it's the Diana event. But this wither skeleton pet is amazing for dungeons. So stronger bones, 28, and this is level I'm just gonna say the stats for level 100, but for mine it is 28.2%, but for level 100 it would be 30%. Wither blood, 50% more damage at level 100, and death's touch. I'm pretty sure that's 200% damage over 3 seconds. Does not stack though for level 100, but it's just an all-around great pet. Another pet that I would get is a tiger. If you want like a decent DPS pet, I would get an epic. It's like half the price. I don't know though. It's an all around. This is better outside of dungeons as well. So if you want an all around pet, I would probably get this one. But I don't know if you can afford both of them. That's great, and I would use this one too. So, and yeah, for pet the pet items, if you can afford it, which actually I would not put it on, but if you really want to, Dwarf Turtle Shelmet is pretty good. Also, you can see over here like Combat XP boost if you also want to grind combat with it. Spooky Cupcape, sorry. Um, yeah, the Crochet Tiger plushie is really good. Iron Claws, I would only do Iron Claws on like a pet like Tiger or Wither Skeleton that gives so much stat stuff. But yeah, so those are like the early game pets, I would say. Now for like going late game, so those things I would go for from entrance. I would use those from entrance to floor like 3 or 4. I think floor 4 would be a little bit of a push. So probably up to floor 3. But now for floor 4 for Berserker, I would use firstly I would get something like Shadow Assassin. If if you don't have the requirement, I would just use I would just buy carry. They're not too expensive. Actually, if you put your IGN down below, I will give you a free carry. Um, but the chest plate though, I would not get the chest plate. Well, if you can afford it, yes, I would obviously get it. But 27 mil for like a mid slash late game dungeon berserker setup, wouldn't really recommend it so much. So I would get something like Zombie Knight chest plate, which these are amazing. I used one for a while, but these are really good instead of the other chest plate. They give good stats. If you want to, you can get a legendary one. You don't have to, but legendaries are a bit better. Um, yeah. So these are really good. These are a really good substitute. But a Shadow Assassin, if I go to the normal set, it's pretty nice. Like as you can see, I would get it like a lot of stars on it. It's not really worth it to get something like this, but like a decent amount of stars, I would get it. So 3/4 Shadow Assassin, and yeah, if you can't afford it, I don't know. I would just like get adaptive chestplate, I guess. If and yeah, another substitute. So like you can use adaptive chestplate or zombie knight. I prefer zombie knight because more damage and more defense, which is kind of what the set needs instead of the Shadow Assassin chestplate. I uh now for the weapons, I would get. There's a couple. There's a livid dagger, as I showed you. It's pretty good. I would definitely save up for one of these. They're really nice. Damage and all around stats. Another one that I would get, as you can see all of these. Another one that I would get would be a Flower of Truth. Actually, I can show you my Flower of Truth. This one though, I would definitely not like. If you probably can't afford like Soul Eater 4 and like the Recon Bob and maybe not Withered on it, but like at least like Fabled or like Dirty if you want DPS. Um, like Soul Eater 1, maybe Swarm 1, probably. And obviously all enchants, probably not Recon Bob. This thing's amazing. I actually wouldn't get the Livid Dagger. If you can get both, that's great. I don't know for floor 6, but yeah, that's what I would do for Livid Dagger and Flower of Truth. Just, if you can't afford both, just use Flower of Truth. You can get both, and then like for mini bosses and stuff, I would use like the Livid Dagger, but for like clearing, I would use the Flower of Truth. For also, if you can't afford that, a little bit of a cheaper option, if my auction house would work, is a spirit sword. They're like a little bit more than the adaptive blade. They're pretty good. They're a nice upgrade from the adaptive blade. This one's a really nice deal for 3 mil. Pretty good damage. The perks are really nice deals. 2% more damage to undead monsters, which most of the mobs in dungeons are undead, for every 1% of your missing health, and then 1 turn to the ghost. This item works. So honestly, for a new meta, if like you die a lot, I would save this weapon, and if you die, just swap to the spirit sword, so you can not be completely useless. And then this the ability is uh spirit bomb, shoots a spirit that deals 8,000 damage. I If you can't afford it though, like if you don't already have all this stuff, I wouldn't get it. But if you have some money to drain a little bit of money, I would get it. It's nice dealing a little bit of damage when you're dead. So those are the swords. For the pets though, I would use those 3 pets. There aren't really new pets. I mean, if you can though, um, I would like get all of them to legendary except the tiger. I mean, if you can, I would get the legendary tiger, but it's not really necessary. So I would get those things, and also for reforges, we can start talking about reforges. Um, I would get ancient, and for like the mid game players, definitely I don't think ancient would be worth it. But something like Pure or Fierce from the blacksmith would definitely be worth it. So, yeah, those are the weapons and pets for mid game. Now for my favorite part, end game, I would get Necron. I recently got Necron. It is amazing. So I would get all of this, the helm, and if you're Kata 26, I would get Terra Helm actually because it's better because of the perk instead of the Necron's helmet. But if you don't have Kata 26, just use the Necron's helmet. And I think this setup, if you have a decent, you should be able to do floor 6s and maybe 7s with this setup. With Necron, I can't though because of my Kata level. And with the mid game setup, I would say probably can't do floor 6s, but you can do like floor 4s and 5s really easily. Um, so that's the set for endgame 3, the Necron or 3/4 Necron. If you can't afford the chest plate, I would get the Shadow Assassin chest plate. That for the mid game, if you can afford it, it's really good. Substitute just like the Zombie Knight, and also if you can't even afford the Shadow Assassin chestplate, or you want to get something else, you could also use the Zombie Knight. I can't emphasize how much the Zombie Knight is good. Like it's just such a good substitute for berserkers who can't afford like the better version of the chestplate. So I would get that. So those are the sets. For That's the set for endgame. Also, if you can't, this is a really step up. This is a huge step up actually. But the Valkyrie, it's a great sword for the end game players. Like it's great. You can deal so much damage, and it, it it's just insane. I know most players won't be able to afford an item that is worth over 600 million coins, but if you can't afford it, it's so much better than the Flower of Truth and like the Livid Dagger. But I actually would keep the Flower of Truth for clearing because it's rose. Ooh, it's insane. So that's how, those are the two, those are the armor sets and that category. Now for pets. There's 3 pets. So I'm actually gonna bring back the Wither Skeleton pet for one reason. The floor 6 boss fight. For the floor 7 boss fight. The floor 7 boss fight, you can obviously see that Stronger Bones and Wither Blood and Death's Touch is gonna help you so much because most of the mobs are Wither. So that's why the Wither Skeleton would be good. If you're like not cutting it with the Wither Skeleton, you can also use the Blue Whale. Legendary, of course. It's just an HP pet and a little bit of defense and all around. And this is only for floor 6. But Baby Yeti, it's not a good pet for floor 7, but Baby Yeti is great for floor 6. I have a maxed one with turtle helmet and everything. But as you can see, gain 100% of your strength as defense, and also Cold Breeze is extremely underrated, especially out of dungeons, because I don't know about how many players know, but when you're grinding ghosts, there's this little there's a lot of snow and stuff, and the perk is gain 50% strength and crit damage near snow. And you might be wondering, this is kind of off topic, but why is there a little wither over there? And that's actually from the full storm. So full storm is a great full storm, full wither set with the Necron is great. So that includes the Necron, any wither set. So Necron, any Necron, Storm, all of those, Goldor, Maxor, they're great because this thing can deal a good amount of damage. So back to what I was talking about. The sets, or no, the pets. So you can use the Baby Yeti, and that's 100% of your strength as defense. So if I hold up my Wither Skeleton, as you can see, out of dungeons, I get 2,000 defense, which isn't really that much for like the end game players, but that's a decent amount. So you have the defense, and if you're lacking HP, I would go for Blue Whale. Reforge is Ancient if you can't afford it, Pure or Fierce. That's basically it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for sticking to the end, and remember, if you're having any trouble on any floors, please comment down below, and I'll try to help you if it's not floor 7, because I can do all the floors except floor 7 really well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.